So if you're not dropping body fat at the minute, there is 3 areas that we're going to cover as to why there could be. So rather than it just being 3 quick reasons, I'm going to dive a bit deeper. The areas, for context, are going to be, it's either your metabolism, your brain, or the plan itself. We're going to uncover those 3 and why you're not dropping body fat and why you still look the same you have done 8, 12 weeks after starting the plan, which is not what you want. You want to make fucking progress. And when we're dropping body fat, it should be 1% every week. Bang, 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 bang. So we want to make sure that is happening. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Tom Sergi. I run the Gorilla Platoon, where we get results like this. So this is my bread and butter, body recomposition, and especially the art of pulling body fat off the frame and holding onto muscle tissue. So if this is your goal, then you've come to the right place. My promise to you is by the end of the video, you will know 3 reasons as to why you're not losing body fat, but most importantly, how to fucking overcome them. Highlighting the problem will not always get the solution that you need. We need to give you the tangibles as well. So let's waste no time and dive straight into it. The first reason as to why you're not dropping body fat is because your metabolism is fucked. How have you fucked your metabolism? Well, what people do to fuck their metabolism is they will start on a dieting phase and they will take their calories really low. Now, what happens when you take your calories really low? You run out of progression, you run out of energy for gym floor performance, and overall, you have a shit time of it because your food's really, really low. So when you do this, you really are shooting yourself in the foot. And once you do this for long enough, you've got nowhere to go. This is why motherfuckers, and you've heard of like, I don't know, like women tend to do this, no offense, but they'll go like really low calorie and they'll be like, oh, I'm only eating this many calories and I'm not losing weight. It's like, yeah, no shit. You just put your body in an absolute fucking fight or flight scenario, and at the minute it's fucking fighting to hold on to every bit of stores it's got because it doesn't know when it's getting fed next. This is why you may have heard the term, and I don't really agree with it so much, where people are like, have a cheat meal, and then after the cheat meal you drop weight. It doesn't really work like that, but that's a story for another day. Your metabolism's fucked because you've gone too high with cardio and too low with food too soon. You didn't need to do that. And why most people fuck their metabolism in the first place is just through the way they live, because they live like pieces of shit, where they'll just eat processed food. 1 processed food meal per day with like some snacks in between and then some alcohol and some more bullshit, and they never give their body full proper nutrients that it requires. And when you do that for long enough, you're still going to store fat, but you just don't end up like having the ability to drop any weight because you never gave your body enough food anyway. Motherfuckers are probably living off 1,500 calories of pure horseshit food, 0 nutrient quality, and then wonder why they can't drop any weight but they're not eating any calories. Honestly, people just fuck their metabolism for free. It's painful to see how they actually do this. So to get results like this, I'll tell you now the trick that we do. So if you come to me and your physique looks like this, or this, a trick you can do is take your calories, work out your maintenance, and sit just below it in a slight deficit. Because you're still in a deficit, technically, for the amount of body fat you're carrying to the weight that you currently are. You will have a lean mass, and what people aren't doing, they're not feeding the lean mass anyway. Now, don't get me wrong, motherfuckers probably have hardly any muscle tissue, and they have a shit ton of body fat. But let's say you're looking like this, and you're struggling to drop the body fat itself. Sit just below maintenance. That will allow you enough food to drive performance in the gym, but it will get your metabolism in a better space because you'll be eating more food of proper quality nutrients. Of course, you're going to need to follow a proper nutrition plan. Of course you are. Of course, you're going to need to eat sufficient amount of protein. And to tell you the quick answer, it's going to be your lean mass times it by 2.4. If you're not super fat, 1 gram per pound of body weight works well. If you're super fat, go off your height in centimeters. That amount in grams per protein will work well as well. Fat target, 20% of the overall target, and the rest is filled with carbs. Sit at that for 6 weeks, your metabolism will fucking square itself away. It will drop body fat because you're in a deficit, but also because you're feeding it what it requires. It's not in a state of pure survival because you're only giving it 1,000 calories and half of it's fucking horseshit processed foods. And that is the way you can re-square away your metabolism. Now, at this point, that will do a lot of the work and solve a lot of the issues as to why you're not dropping body fat. You sit at that for 6 weeks. Now you're primed, and then you can drop body fat at a nice aggressive rate, being 1% of the scale weight per week, roughly. A kilo a week should be the target, really, for most of you, unless you're super light, then go for 1%. Now, from there, you can go quite aggressive. You can then, if you're in a 200 calorie deficit, go straight to a 500 calorie deficit, sit at that, and then look to increase output, but always look to keep food as high as you possibly can. The way I get the results I do is because I keep food as high as we can, because that will drive gym floor performance. Gym floor performance is the biggest driving factor for building and retaining tissue. You can eat all the protein you want. If you don't train like a fucking psychopathic animal in the gym, you will just not build muscle. That's the long and short of it. The body needs to have a reason to hold on to this muscle. Just like your brain needs to have a reason to fucking remember how to do algebra. So you better be using algebra on the fucking daily, otherwise you're not going to remember how to do it. Do you know how I know? Because I can't fucking remember how to do it. So the same goes for muscle. You need to have a certain amount of muscle. It's because you need to put a certain amount of stimulus on it every day. The body doesn't want to be in pain. The body wants to be in homeostasis, chilling. So the body will come back down if you don't give it a reason to stay up at that point. But if you give it a reason, the body doesn't want to be in pain. So it will maintain its level of muscle to support the stress that you put on it on a daily basis. So that's why you need to have higher food to drive performance in the gym. Also, when you're building muscle, your physique is going to look better. And that's what you actually came here for. You wanted to drop body fat, of course you did, but you need to be developing the muscles so you can see something underneath when you pull off the body fat anyway. So the first reason is that people fuck their metabolism. It's probably one of the biggest reasons why people won't drop body fat. That's the solution for it. I hope I've resonated with you with this point, because it's probably one of the biggest ones as to why you can't make any progress. Now, let's move on to the second point, and maybe the second point actually is probably just as big or important as the first one. It's that your brain is fucked. That's why. The reason you can't drop body fat is just because you have no fucking self-control. You can't stick to anything longer than 2 weeks without seeing a new shiny object and be like, oh, well, I'll go and follow this diet plan and keto and carnivore and I'm a vegan now. And like, you motherfuckers can't stick to anything long enough. And that's because your brain is fucked. Because you're always seeing the new shiny thing and thinking, well, I'll go and do that. That sounds really cool. And yeah, what about this fucking lower ab exercise for body? No. If you had the ability to stick to one plan for 8 to 12 to 16 weeks, I'll tell you now, you will get good results. Do you know how I know this? Because this is what we do. And do you know where the challenge is? Honestly, it's keeping people aligned to the plan. If I can keep someone to focus to the plan for 20 weeks, you're going to look like this. 16 weeks, you're going to look like this. 16 weeks, you look like this. 14 weeks, you look like this. 16 weeks like this. 12, 9, 8. This was a full year of ticking off the boxes, and you will look like this. But it's easier said than done. It's much easier said than done. And my job is, of course, it's to structure progressive plans that get results, but it's honestly to keep the individual focused on the goal, to keep the weeds out of his fucking garden, i.e. his brain, and just keep him focused. The reason why you're not dropping body fat is, let's say you didn't start with a fuck metabolism, it's because you just can't stick and follow to the plan for long enough. And if this sounds like common sense, then good. Hopefully point one was the reason why you couldn't make progress. But for a lot of the population, it's not your metabolism. For some motherfuckers, it is your metabolism and your brain both are fucked, and in which case you've really got no hope at all of really getting to the goal. Hopefully after watching this video, you have a lot more fucking hope of getting to the goal. But honestly, that's the reason. It's because you just don't value yourself. That's one. Another is you actually don't even think you can get to the goal. Like, let's be honest, you look at abs and think, oh, abs, this big hard thing that's so hard to get. It's not fucking hard to get. It's a human body, it's biology. Do a certain formula for a certain amount of time with a certain person. Every human being can have a midsection sharp with abs. Because every human being is pretty much the same. Don't get me wrong, we've all got different body types and things will look different. Someone's abs are symmetrical and someone's abs are offset, but everyone's got a human body. Once you get down to a certain level of body fat and train in a certain way, you will look the same. It's fucking biology. Just like when intercourse happens, we breed and out comes a fucking new baby, because that's just biology. It's just the way shit happens. But motherfuckers can't keep their brain fixated on one goal for long enough to achieve the goal. That's honestly the biggest issue. So how do you get round this? How do you actually stick to one thing without veering off in different directions? Honestly, your ability to say no to things and to have more self-respect, that is all you need. So the way you get round this is, the tangible I'll give you is, structure out everything you need to do tomorrow the night before. So you're like, tomorrow I need to wake up at this time and actually do the thing. Walk at this time, gym at this time, eat these meals, prep for the next day at this time. Because you need to think, what would the athlete do that has the six-pack? He'd do these things, right? Write them out. Follow these things. Now, you do all those things, great. You've got a day's worth of data of showing that you can live like an athlete. Stack that for 7 days, you've got a week. Stack that for 2 weeks, you've got 2 weeks. And what you're doing is you're affirming your belief that you can live and be like an athlete. And if you do that for long enough, you're going to have the thing. And then when you have the thing, your new standard, your new self-image will be like, I am a guy with a six-pack. So if that you go below that line of your now new standard, remember humans will do a shit ton to avoid pain and fear a lot more than they will do to gain pleasure. So once you have the thing, you'll be so scared of losing it that you will stick to this routine that you've made. Because the feeling of regressing in life is fucking very, very painful. But to get there is hard. The way you get there is by changing the way you see yourself. And the way you change by how you see yourself is the habits you do on a day-to-day basis in order to progress to the goal. So your tangible step to unfuck your brain is to set a plan, stick to that plan by setting out the daily habits and only focus on the day. Don't worry about the plan over the long term. Obviously, every week you're going to assess the data. Did I make progress? No. Okay, right, we need to make a change. Excuse me, and that will lead me on to point 3 in a second. But stick to that plan. Follow it day after day after day after day. Only worry about that given day and tick it off. And over time, you will have the physique. You will have the ability to focus and stick to one goal. This world is full of distractions. And the distractions will keep you where you are today. But the distractions are not the problem. You are the problem. You are the problem because you can't fucking focus. And it is your fault. Like, let's be honest. It is your fault because we all have the choices. No one sat us down and vegetated our brains so we couldn't focus. You are the problem. But as soon as you understand, I am the problem, and that's okay. I need to change. I will change, and I can control it. As soon as you can control something, you have the power. Don't tell me you don't like being in control of things, because I know every human being does. So the moment you're like, I can control this, this is what I'm going to do about it, and do the thing, you will feel very, 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 very much better about yourself. So that's the second reason. People can't focus and stick to one goal, and their metabolism is probably fucked as well. So they're really in a shit state. The final reason why you're not dropping body fat is because the plan itself is fucked. And the plan itself is fucked because maybe you followed the wrong advice, maybe you've just tried to wing it yourself, and because of that, you're not seeing results. How do you fix your plan? I guess it depends what you're doing first, but honestly, the formula to getting in very good shape is set calories just below maintenance. And again, this will depend. Let's take an example here. If you start out at 25% body fat, you can go straight into a deficit of around about 500 calories. You can set your steps to 10,000, and you don't need to do cardio in the beginning. What you're going to do is track your data for a week. That's your scale weight. You're going to take photos weekly. You're going to weigh yourself. Well, we've said that. Weigh yourself daily. You're going to track your nutrition daily, and you're going to track your output, steps, and then cardio when it comes in, and also your sleep. After a week, you will see what progress did or didn't you make. If you dropped a kilo in that first week, brilliant. Don't touch your plan. Keep it exactly where it needs to be. However, if you didn't see progress, you need to create a bigger deficit. In the very first week, I would say make the calorie deficit a little bit greater. Drop another 200 calories. See what happens then. Now, from there, you will see progress until you don't. And when you don't see progress, you just pull another lever. If time permits, I would tell you to increase formal cardio, because that way you keep food higher. So from there, start formal cardio. Heart rate 120 to 130. Rinse that for 20 minutes per day. Or stack it on like an hour times 2 and a little bit across the week. It depends on your schedule, of course. And do 10,000 steps as well each day. Rinse that out until progress starts to stall. Pull another lever, 30 minutes daily cardio. Rinse that out till progress starts to stall. Pull another lever, 40 minutes cardio. Repeat, repeat, repeat until you get towards the goal. At this point, by the time you get to the end, you're probably on like quite lowish calories, quite high output. Life gets fucking hard, but then you remember your brain and your mindset that we spoke about in point 2 as to why you want to get to the goal, the habits you're following on a day-to-day basis, and that is what will keep you aligned and true to the actual goal itself. So honestly, if you're not doing that, the plan is fucked. And if you are doing that, you're going to see results. I know this because I do this fucking week in, week out. This is the results we get off doing it. This isn't the world according to me. This is what I do. These are the results we get. And this is how I do it. So I'm sharing this with you. I'm not some fucking genius. I just have a formula. I stick to it. I follow it. I believe in it. And it churns out good results. I believe good results. You let me know in the comments if you think they're good or not. Or if you'd like to look like this. If you do, by the way, want to look like this and you want me to do it for you, there'll be a link in the description and you can book a call and we can go from there. But back to the point. Most people, they start after trashing their metabolism for fucking ages, barely eating any food, garbage. Then they don't have the mental bandwidth to stick at anything for longer than 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then on top of that, they've kind of just made the plan up themselves. And again, low calorie, high output straight away from the off. Don't really train that well either. Like they tickle a bit of weights, don't know about slowing the load on the way down. And no wonder they fucking fall off. Because you got all 3 of those. If all 3 are fucked, you can have a real shit time of it and think, and I'll tell you what you'll think. When you see results like this, you'll think, it's not achievable for me. They all must be taking something. When I'll tell you now, none of them are. So that's why. So you need to fix all 3 really. To get the result at the end, you need to have everything all singing on the same song sheet. And if you do, you're going to get a good result. And if you don't, then you're going to have a fucking shit time of it. But hopefully this has highlighted 1 of 3 reasons as to why you're not seeing the results. But now you know how to get around it. If you found this video useful, subscribe and I'll see you tomorrow.